Another regionals event is coming up, which means it's time to go over my main deck, my love, my Zephagamon deck. Now, I have done a few of the deck profiles on my Zephagamon deck, but it has actually changed quite a bit since my last video. In fact, I'm fairly certain each time I've done a Zephagamon deck profile, the next locals I've gone to, I actually come first. So hopefully it's the same with this one, because I do have a locals tonight. However, because regionals is coming up, everyone's kind of on their A game. They're pulling out their strongest deck and testing it for regionals, which is not this upcoming weekend, but the weekend after. When this video releases, it will be the upcoming weekend, but from when I'm recording this, it's still like just under a week and a half away. So let's get into it. Again, there are a few changes that I've made since my last deck profile for my Zephagamon deck, but I'll talk about the things I've changed and kind of gloss over the things I've basically kept in the deck for the last few deck profiles. So first up, we'll have our eggs, which I have actually changed. I run now 4 of the EX7 Fluffymon, which is the one with the inheritable ability of when this Digimon deletes your opponent's Digimon in battle, if it's your turn, you gain 1 memory. And that means that the starter deck Fluffymon, which is the when attacking once per turn, you may suspend 1 of your opponent's Digimon. I did have this as 3-2 split, but now I've gone for a 4-1 split. I think the memory gain is a lot better because it allows you to take your turn back, potentially, especially with any other memory gain that you have. So that can be useful for being able to attack again, because if you string up the right amount of cards and you get the right inheritables, you can effectively do about 5 security in 1 turn if you're very lucky. I've only managed to do that once or twice, but it can be quite fast. And that's kind of something that's important to have in this current meta, is a fast deck. A lot of decks now can basically 1 turn kill you by turn 2 or 3. So it kind of needs to speed up a little bit. While the starter deck one is good because you can suspend an opponent's Digimon, meaning you get another Vortex target, or if you've got Palmon's effect, which when an opponent's Digimon with this effect becomes suspended, they lose 2 memory. So you can use it, but I found it not as useful as the EX7 Fluffymon. So that's something I have changed with my level 2s, considering I've been sitting on that 3-2 split for basically the whole time I've been running this deck. Finally decided to bite the bullet. I think I've mentioned in every deck profile that I was thinking to go to 4-1 split, but now I've actually finally done it. So over to our level 3s. Palmon, she's still a 2-off, that's the same as it always has been. It's very useful to have that start of main phase. 1 of your opponent's Digimon gains all turns when this Digimon becomes suspended, lose 2 memory until end of the turn. I mentioned, I think in my Dandenong deck profile video, that if you have 2 in play and you play out your medieval for a 7 cost, you can effectively play the medieval for 3 if you suspend 2 Digimon, or 1 Digimon that has the 2 of the Palmon effects. So that's pretty cool. But again, that's been a 2-of for a pretty long time, so I won't talk about it too much. But yes, good card. Inheritable also, if you have a Tamer, reduce the evolution cost by 1. That's useful as well. Next, something that's new is the Pomimon. Now, something that is important in the current meta are these floodgates. Green doesn't have that many of them, but it does have Pomimon, which means that players can't play Digimon by effects. Now, this is all players, it's not just your opponent. So if you have something like the Galemon from the starter deck, which has the security effect of playing a play cost 4 or less card from hand or trash, that means you can't play a Digimon from this, so you'll have to be limited for playing a Tamer because you can't pick a Digimon there. So it does hurt you, but only just a little bit, and that's only the security effect of Galemon, so it doesn't hurt you too much, but it is important to have in this meta, especially against something like Royal Knights, so basically any deck that plays cards by effects, but it does slow down Royal Knights quite a bit. In fact, a lot of floodgates do hurt Royal Knights. You can't reduce play cost ones, which I don't think there's one in green. I might be misremembering. I can't remember which floodgate the Tentomon is, but I know that I don't run it. But the Pomimon, that is useful. It's, however, not a bird. It's just a vegetation, which it should be a bird. It's bird adjacent at the very least. Yes, I know it's a dragon fruit, but it's not a bird, which is unfortunate, which means that you can't find it with the starter deck Terramon, which searches for bird, avian, or vortex warriors and liberator. So I've got 2 of the Pomimon. Now, to put in the Pomimon, I had to reduce the other 2 Terramons. I'm not reducing the starter deck Terramon, which is the Searcher, which I find too useful. So I have the EX7 Terramon, which is the reducing the evolution cost by 1 if it's a bird or avian, and the all turns when this Digimon deletes an opponent's Digimon in battle, gain 1 memory inheritable, which is very useful, especially with the EX7 Fluffymon that I mentioned. Again, you're gaining 2 memory if you've got that on top of the EX7 Fluffymon. Again, I'm kind of tossing up between, like, having this as a 3-off and maybe reducing this to a 0, which is the promo Terramon, which is on play, suspend 1 of your opponent's Digimon. I don't actually find this that useful, and that's why I've gone down to 1 with it. But it is still good to be able to suspend something on play, especially if you green scramble it out or get the Galemon security effect out and get to play something and then immediately suspend an opponent's Digimon. That is useful, but otherwise I don't find as useful as the other ones. The plus 2000 DP inheritable is pretty good. It's the same as the starter deck one, but again, it just beefs it up. But I do like the memory gain of the EX7 one. But that's sort of the ratios that I've settled for my level 3s. In fact, I've actually gone down to 11 level 3s because I was not struggling for level 3s as much as I was for level 5s. So I went down to 11 level 3s and 9 level 5s because I was consistently bricking for level 5s, sometimes level 4s, but never level 3s. Another reason why I don't really mind not having that many level 3s is for the new promo Gale, or newer promo Gale rather, which on play when Digivolving suspend 1 Digimon, then if it's your turn, this Digimon may Digivolve into a Digimon card with Bird, Avian and any of its traits. And for every other suspended Digimon reduced, this affects Digivolution cost by 1. So you're suspending a Digimon and then you can evolve for every suspended Digimon, and that's on play as well. Sometimes if I don't have any level 3s, I'll just hard slam the Galemon and then immediately go into, hopefully, the Grand Galemon, which gives me the immunity until the end of my opponent's turn. Now, I won't talk too much about the level 4s because these haven't changed at all, but I feel like this is, I can't imagine changing up the level 4s at all. I like having this one as a 4 of. I wish I could have more of it, honestly. This is a great card. The fact it speeds up the deck considerably. You do have the potential to give your opponent quite a bit of memory depending on how many Digimon are suspended, but it allows you to go into your level 5 fairly quickly, which, very useful. So, yeah, the level 5s I have sort of changed up a bit. I did try Chromon a little bit after the last deck profile video, which was very useful, but of course it was a bird, so I could get it with the Terramon search, and it can evolve from the newer promo Gale for cheaper. I found that it was still a little bit too pricey as its evolution cost, and it's inheritable of having the minus 4000 DP, and it's, when Digivolving on play, just being gets plus 3000 and then 1 Digimon may attack. I found that it wasn't as useful later on in the game, and it wasn't that useful as an inheritable. Yes, you can get something minus 4000 DP, which means you can remove a smaller thing, but I much rather prefer the inheritable that we have from both the Grand Gales. So I went to 3 of the starter deck Grand Gale. Now I'm still not that impressed with this as a card by itself. The on play and when Digivolving, yes, you get to suspend 1 Digimon, but if it's one of yours, you get to play a Bird Avian with DP 3000 or less from your hand without paying the cost. Now, I only have 7 level 3s that actually fit this, because 4 of my level 3s aren't birds or avians, they're both vegetation actually, so I only have 7 to play off this, and it's just from hand. So later on in the game, I might not actually have one in my hand, and a lot of the time I find that I don't have that level 3 in my hand, so I don't use this one too much, but it does suspend a Digimon, and it can be an opponent's Digimon, so I do get that. It doesn't have Vortex, but it does have the inheritable of when this Digimon attacks your opponent's Digimon, you may unsuspend this Digimon. So it's the same as the EX7 Grand Gale's attack, which is fairly useful. But again, I'm still not super sold on this. In my previous videos, I've had Lilymon Ace in this spot. I've had Argomon as, you know, BT2 Argomon, so a one of. So I've tried a few different things, and it's always sort of like this sort of chunk I've always struggled with. Chromon, yes, was good. A few people did recommend that after my last video. And yeah, it's good, but the inheritable isn't as good as the starter deck Grand Gale of unsuspending, because it means you can potentially unsuspend a lot in your turn, and it speeds up the game. And again, in this current meta, speed is very important because a lot of decks can win in a very small amount of time. So it is important to speed that up a bit. Its evolution cost is 3, Chromon's evolution cost is just 4, so yes, while it's good, it can hurt if you're not reducing the evolution cost considerably, and I don't find it worth it as a 4 cost for evolution compared to the other options. Again, hopefully we get a better Grand Galemon, because I'm not super fond of this one in particular, and that's why it's only a 3 of, whereas the EX7 one is a 4 of because of that protection. It's got Vortex. It's just a little bit better than the starter deck one, but still, that inheritable. Then we have the Rapidmon. This is always a 2 of. This is fairly useful because it has protection from being bot decked or returned to hand or just blown up by Digimon effects. So this is useful again in this current meta, especially because you can hard slam it for 7 and de-digivolve an ace, and then you get, if you de-digivolve a level 6, you get 4 memory back, so you're effectively slamming down a level 5 for about 3 memory. That's pretty useful. It also has the inheritable of when this Digimon deletes an opponent's Digimon in battle, trash the top of security. So again, speeds up a bit. So if you're swinging with your EX7 Zephagamon, you're swinging for 2, it has piercing, you're piercing through an opponent's Digimon. So first thing they do is they trash the top security, do those 2 security checks, and depending on your stack, you might also get 2 memory back, which means that you can continue your turn, just depending on how much memory you have. So that one, that's still a 2. That hasn't changed since very early iterations of this deck. And that's it for the level 5s. Those did change a bit. Now, the level 6s haven't really changed too much. We still have Medieval at 3. We have Zephagamon Ace at 3. And we have EX7 Zephagamon at 2. Now, this deck is kind of top-hand heavy, but that's mainly because Zephagamon Ace, you can evolve onto a level 6, and, well, a level 6 with Vortex Warrior, which my level 6s are Vortex Warrior. And also, I found that a really good way of ending the game when your opponent has no security, you can just hard slam the Zephagamon. It obviously passes turn. If you have Shoto Kazuma, which redirects the attack, you can Vortex into your opponent's Digimon, redirect it to your opponent for game. That's something that's pretty good about it being an 8 cost if you don't have any other things with Vortex. Of course, you can just do it with your Galemon, which is only a 6 cost, but of course you also get the on play of being able to bot deck something. So if you have an opponent's Digimon that you're scared will be able to ace, but they have another one that's a lower level Digimon, you can do that instead. And I've won quite a few games with that. But again, my level 6s haven't changed too much. In this current meta, I find that Zephagamon being able to bot deck is fairly useful, especially because Galacticmon scares me. I am building the deck and I love it because of Digimon World 2003, but it does kind of scare me a little bit. And also because Galacticmon can get so big, Medieval Gallant doesn't really do much. So honestly, part of me is considering going down 1 Medieval for 1 more EX7 Zephagamon, but for now I'll leave it like this, because Medieval is good against a lot of decks, also in the meta, like Royal Knights, which is another thing that I'm kind of scared of. Also, I just really like Zephagamon Ace in this deck because it goes over all of them, and it unsuspends when something suspends, and it also sees itself suspend as that, so you can get quite a few swings in. Like you can go Zephagamon Ace, just AX7 Zephagamon, do the 2 security with piercing into your opponent's Digimon. It will then unsuspend, and then you can potentially regain memory, have your turn again, and then you can Zephagamon Ace, you can swing, it sees itself suspend, it unsuspends, and then you can swing again. So you can do quite a bit of damage with that, and if it's still your turn after all of that, you can also just, if they have another Digimon, do the drop something with Vortex, redirect it with the starter deck Shoto. Now the newer part of this deck is the fact that I put in the BT20 Valdur Arm. So this has security attack +1. It evolves onto obviously all of my level 6s or any of my level 6s, but it has the when Digivolving for each of this Digimon's level 6 Digivolution cards, which I'm not DNA Digivolving in this deck because obviously I don't have any yellow, but a lot of the time I do have 2 level 6s in source because of Zephagamon Ace being able to go over a Vortex Warrior level 6. So suspend one of your opponent's Digimon or Tamers and gain 1 memory, then none of their Digimon or Tamers can activate on-play effects or unsuspend until the end of their turn. This does shut down a lot of decks long enough for you to potentially win. It does have quite a high evolution cost of 5, but if you are evolving over an evolution stack that has 2 level 6s, so Zephagamon or Medieval with Zephagamon Ace, you're gaining 2 memory back and you're suspending Digimon our Tamers and locking them down, and they can't do on-play effects. So it does slow down Royal Knights a little bit. I haven't really tested it too much, it's just a one-of, but it seems very useful. Unfortunately, despite having a bird arm, it is not a bird trait, which is kind of unfortunate. I wish it was Birdman, because then I'd be able to search it with Terramon. Nothing sadder than getting it out with my, finding it in my Terramon search and then having to bot deck the one that I have. But it is an interesting win con here. I have been mixing up the level 7s a little bit. After my last video, I put in Omni X as just a one-off because it does evolve over Medieval Gallantmon. That is quite useful. It does end of turn attack, it does get big and scary, but I wasn't finding it to really shut down my opponents, and my opponents could still win the next turn after the Omni X came out. And of course, if I don't have Medieval on field, I can't use it, and it's just kind of sitting there in my hand, unless my opponent gives me enough memory where I can hard slam it, which has happened. But I'm at the moment preferring Valdur Arm, but Omni X is a good addition, especially maybe if I went back to having 4 Medievals. That would obviously be more useful because more things for it to evolve onto, because it doesn't evolve onto anything that's green. It only evolves onto Medieval Gallant because of its red. But Valdur Arm I find is more useful, and again, it does slow down a lot of decks in this current meta. I also considered putting Paladin Mode Ace back into this deck. That was something that was in my deck before Zephagamon Ace came out. It was something that was really useful, and I'm still kind of tossing up, but I think I prefer Valdemont? Why do I keep on saying thing and then Mon? Valdur Arm, there we go, nailed it, in this deck over Pally Ace or Omni X, but those are other options if you want to try something that's not Valdur Arm, but this works very well, and again, it fits the meta. Now onto the options which haven't changed. Agility Training still at 3, Scramble still at 2. I don't feel like changing this around too much. I've considered maybe trying to put a green memory boost in place of one of those agility trainings, but again, it only grabs Digimon cards, and I kind of sometimes might want a Tamer from that, so the agility training is staying at 2 for the moment. And Green Scramble, very useful. I've actually started to remember to do the start of turn and not drawing and then going, oh, I was meant to Green Scramble. The best way of doing that is just to put my hand down, and then I have to think about it before I pick up my hand, and that's the only way I can remember to actually do the Green Scramble at the start of turn. Then lastly, the Tamers, they haven't changed. I'm fairly certain since my last video The new Shoto is a 1. The start of main phase, being able to play a Shoto from hand is pretty useful. And then bot deck the new Shoto. That's pretty useful because sometimes I don't want to spend 4 memory on a Shoto. I might just want to spend 3 on it. Or maybe I don't have the memory set of Shoto yet, so I keep that there until I do. The end of turn is quite useful because a lot of the Digimon in this deck are kind of on the lower end of the DP, especially on my opponent's turn. So it has the end of turn of, I can suspend this Tamer, suspend one of my opponent's Digimon, so it gives me a Vortex target, and until end of the opponent's turn, one of your Digimon with Vortex Warrior gets plus 2000 DP. So a problem with Medieval is it's only 11,000. A lot of things can bash that over, so just that extra plus 2000 does help. But again, it's not as useful as the other 2 Tamers, and it's not going to win me any games, but it is nice to just have there, especially because if I have that, I play it, I wait until I have the memory setter, which can win me games, and then I'll play that out, bot deck the BT20 Shoto. Then, of course, we have the piercing blocker, increases memory if my opponent has a Digimon. 1, that's very useful, and then we have the memory setter, which I kind of only really need 1 of at the time, so that's why it's a 2 of. It's good to have as many of these on the board as possible. Kind of only want 1 of the memory setter Shoto, because only 1 thing is vortexing at a time, so it's not really useful to have more than 1 of these out there. But again, I can win with this. Vortex, my opponent has no security, redirect it to play it for game. And yeah, that is the Zephagamon deck as it stands at the moment. Again, this one was kind of a struggle to put in the starter deck Grand Gale. I had Sean, my good buddy, the Gilmon player. He was kind of advising me to put it in. I was kind of like, I don't know, don't really like it as much. But after testing all the other options, that Inheritable is just too good. So Sean, if you're watching this, I'm sorry for doubting your endless wisdom about Digimon. You were right. You're always right. I should just always listen to you. But at least I tried other things, but again, it's not as good as it could be, but that Inheritable really can win some games, speed some things up. And yeah, so hopefully this doesn't do too terribly for regionals. I'm not expecting to do fantastically or anything. I would like to be in like the top 50%. I think I was usually in like just underneath the 50% mark for both Nats and regionals. So hopefully I do a little bit better than that. Maybe I'll win. I'd like to win the majority of my matches. Previously, I think I've been like 3 wins, 4 losses, or something along those lines, which isn't terrible, but I would like to do better. So hopefully this deck does better than that. And I can't imagine changing this deck at all between now and the regionals event. But yeah, that's it for this video. Let me know your thoughts, comments, questions, etc., in the comment section below. Like this video for yay Terramon and yay whatever I'm going to run once I'm putting Terramon on hiatus for a bit after regionals. I really do want to do a deck profile on the Vemon deck because it's fun, but it's also disgusting. But in any case, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye! Oh, and also, the thing I forgot to mention, subscribe if you haven't already, hit the bell, tell your friends, tell your enemies, whatever. There we are. Knew I was feeling something. Anyway, bye!